Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Radhe Jaya Go Premanandi, Hare Bo. So thank you all for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here today amongst all of you. I've been wanting to come to Melbourne again. I was here 14 years ago, and I don't know, some of you may remember me at that time if you've been here that long. But I think most of you are, were just coming in new, probably a few years ago or something. Yeah. So yes, and it's such a wonderful yatra. I've been just soaking everything in, and especially wonderful devotee association, unbelievable. I travel all over the world, and I tell you, Melbourne is such a special temple, is such a special place. Yeah, you're very, very fortunate to be here, actually. I was there in Auckland, in New Zealand, and it's also a very beautiful place. The yatra here, compared to that, is very big. And that's the wonderful thing. The bigger it is, the more association you have, right? It's always so nice. Thank you again for inviting me. I especially want to thank my hosts, Nandini Radhika Mataji and Amal Gaura Sundar Prabhu for hosting me and taking so much care of me, unbelievable, at all times. So I'm so appreciative, so grateful for that. Thank you. Okay, so without further delay, I'm going to start my seminar. I'm assuming all of you you are new for the first time hearing the seminar. Most of you, yeah, all of you. That's good. So I know what to do and what not to do. So there's, like I said, there's a little hiccup, but it's right here. Anyway, so let's get to I will have to tell him because I'm not able to. There's some problem in it. So Prabhu, go to the next one, and then again the next one. One more. Yeah, this is good. So anyway, so this is a three-part seminar. Okay. So again, the first one is it was better a few minutes ago. It was better a few minutes ago. Now it's just screeching. Maybe it will be okay now. Yeah. So. Is it too loud for everybody? You want a little lower? Is it okay? Okay. So this is based on ISKCON motto. Purity is a force. So ISKCON has a motto. Okay, and this was, Prabhupada mentioned this very much. He liked this. So there's purity is the force, books are the basis, and preaching is the essence. Okay. So purity is the force, I will cover as the first one. And before that, I'll be giving a little heads up on Prabhupada's vision for all of us, for our children especially, and my own little experience raising my children. So you have some context why I'm here also. And then we'll begin the three-part series. And after every part, I'll open it for questions and move on to the next one. So the purity is the force is, as you can understand by the title, it's all about how to make a home in such a way which is conducive to our children's upbringing. Okay, how to manage the home. In other words, charity begins at home, isn't it? In other words, what you do at home has a very, very powerful effect on children. Okay, because actually parents are very much instrumental in shaping their children's future and life, especially their character. There's so much to be said in that, A committed relationship of the child with the parents can go a long way in helping the child face the challenges that is to come. Okay. In other words, it's not just about in other words, the whole family unit has to work nicely together for the child to prosper, to do well. As you know, there's so much, dysfunctional homes where parents are not together, and children struggle so much, right? So a conducive home environment also means that a child has a wonderful relationship with the mother and father, and not only that, the parents have a good relationship, a strong relationship, because that helps the child, understand, okay, this is how it's done, and also gives a sense of security, emotional security, that is very much needed. So, and so by giving a good example, the parents can go a long way in helping the child become a nice devotee. Okay, so it's a cooperative thing. So in that I'm going to talk about the don'ts and the do's. What we shouldn't do. Okay, what are some of the things we should avoid with our children, and what are some of the things we should do? So that will cover the first part. The second part will be academic curriculum, which means books are the basis. The study of Shastra, especially Śrīmad Bhāgavatam with our children. All the benefits, the spiritual benefits, the academic benefits that comes from it. I'm going to talk about methodology, how to do it, and also give you nice examples also. That's the second part. Now, without Shastra, without assimilation of Shastras, my experience in parenting and my own children, as well as talking to like hundreds of people throughout the world, my experience has been that without this assimilation of Shastra, without this intake of philosophy, it's very, very difficult to actually keep the children in Krishna consciousness as they grow older and they have other interests come up, they get distracted, peer pressure and so on. In order to keep them together and bring them back to Krishna consciousness is very, very crucial. Not just the fact that, they're doing, going to the temple and all that and doing their own sadhana. It's actually sadhana is easier to keep up when we actually read Shastra. When you actually study Bhagavatam, then even our chanting becomes, good, and you can actually, and children naturally want to chant because it's feeding the intelligence, It's making sense to them. They understand why they are doing. Now children want to know why they're doing what they're doing, right? Gone are the days you could just tell them, okay, just do it because this is our tradition. That doesn't appeal to them anymore, right? They have to know why. They have the whole age is now changing into children must have a understanding why they're doing something, right? It's very, very important for them. So Shastra is really the essence of the whole seminar, studying Bhagavatam today. And then the last one is preaching is the essence. In other words, how to increase their faith and their identity in Krishna consciousness. Okay, how to solidify that identity. All of you, I'm sure you, if it's not your own children or others' children, I'm sure you've heard that how children as they get older, they start losing it. They start becoming distracted. They're not so strong in Krishna consciousness anymore. And so many parents come to me and they're so worried about that. They said, what happened to my little one? He was always so Krishna conscious, always, so wanted to participate, go to the temple, do things in the house, dress the deities, all these things. What happened? Where's my little child gone, right? So how to keep them? So the question is how to keep their faith like it was before. What are some of the things we can do to solidify their faith? And a lot of it is what we do outside. In other words, a lot of my homeschooling program was actually centered outside the home. Because people may think that, the way to raise nice devotees or nice children who are good students is to teach them books, from curriculum books. And in other words, we think that unless they sit behind a desk for 6 hours a day, okay, they cannot be educated. Almost it's like a sentence, unless we sentence them to sit behind a desk for 6 hours a day, they cannot be educated. But do you know, most of the education happens away from the desk, outside the home, really. So that's what we're going to talk in the third part of our seminar. What are some of the things they can do? In other words, preaching, preaching to outsiders. What it does to them when they share Krishna with others. It does miracles, really miracles, literally. Okay? In other words, we want them to be exposed to Krishna consciousness. We want them to be exposed to the outside world. We don't want to isolate them, you know. But yet, how we do it is very important. Okay, the context always should be Krishna. Okay. So let's move on then. Here, as you can see on the screen, is Prabhupada had great hopes for our children, and it was a very top on his list, the concept of Gurukula, and that's why Prabhupada started the Gurukula. The first one that he built was in Dallas, Texas. And he was it was like the third on his list. First was book distribution, second was deity worship, and the third was Gurukula. Okay. Prabhupada was so keen on saving these children. Okay. There's a beautiful quote that I always like to share with you, where Prabhupada says that if we are able to make a whole generation of our children into fine Krishna conscious preachers, that will be the glory of our movement and the glory of your country as well. But if we neglect somehow or other, and if we lose even one Vaishnava, that is a very great loss. So what Prabhupada is saying, that our children, first of all, they are meant to lead the country. They are, you know, he didn't say that, okay, devotee children should just be, you know, be nice devotees, preach, you know, Shastra. No, he's saying that they can actually become the glory of the country, which means they can actually take wonderful positions in the society, in the government, because when people are gentlemen, in other words, when they are ornamented with very good qualities, then these are the type of leaders we want, right? In society, our biggest problem is that the leaders need to be, you know, transparent. In other words, they need to be having a lot of good qualities, and that's what's lacking in society today, as you can see. Just the values are lacking in them. They have no concept of what it means to be a good leader, right? I'd like to give the example, now America has a new president called President Trump, right? I'm sure you've heard of that, right? And I don't want to get into the politics of it, but just certain things, that somehow we miss and leaders don't possess today is just qualities, just Vaishnava qualities of even basic respect for others, irrespective of who they are, isn't it? That only comes when we have the vision of that everybody is a spirit soul, It doesn't matter what kind of color you have, what gender, nothing. And that's our basic philosophy, right? That's the first thing we teach our children. We're not this body, but we're spirit soul, right? And that is lacking. And so, even basic qualities of, respecting others, all that is lacking in them, Now in America, we have a very strong immigrant policy, right? Now, he's sending back all these immigrants back to their countries, which is fine. I mean, whatever he wants to do politically, that's up to him. But how he's doing it, that's the question, right? They're actually being handcuffed like criminals and being put into aircrafts and being sent back to their countries, right? And what's demeaning for them and for their people in the country is the condition in which they're sent. Because, you don't have to make criminals out of people, just because they shouldn't be in your country. And that's also, Vedically is questionable, right? So that's the whole thing. It's like, and just when you compare it with how Krishna behaved, with those who harmed Krishna and the Brajvasis, how did he react with them, right? When he was dealing with Kaliya, right? Kaliya was polluting the Yamuna river and he was so upset, right? And he punished him. He saved his life, but he punished him, right? But then what happened is when he was defeated, he was sent back to his place of residence, Ramanaka Island, with so much respect, right? As the king. You see, in Vedic culture, whenever you defeated somebody, they made their son the king, always. Because the mood was not how to crush them. Just like, what is it? And just like Parikshit Maharaj dealt with Kali, right? In spite of the fact that he knew that he was going to do so much harm, but he tolerated, because he could see even the good in Kali. That's the Vaishnava quality. He sees the good in everyone. So he could see even goodness in Kali. What do you think would be the good in Kali?
The name of the Lord is enough to liberate yourself.
Yeah, because Kali is going to give so much problem that you're going to chant the holy name. This Kali Yuga is also going to bring with it, make it easy for us. Because Kali Yuga came, all the process became very easy. You just chant the holy name and go back to Godhead, right? So he could even see the goodness in that, right? And therefore he gave him a place to stay in the kingdom because he surrendered, right? So you see the Vaishnava quality versus somebody who's lacking good character. And this was Prabhupada's mood. He wanted to see our children with, like, gentlemen, like people who you can look up to with good qualities. And you see devotee children are always like that, right? You go anywhere, they stand out, they stand out. And one thing that they stand out, because my children went through all that and went to college and all that, so the comment, most of the comment is like, they don't build their success on somebody else's failure. One teacher told me, they don't build their success on somebody else's failure. And this is the mood today, right? In order to succeed, you have to crush somebody else. And these are the qualities that we want to see in children, right? Or something like, how can somebody be so brilliant but so humble? Because if you're brilliant or you're really good, then you're going to become proud, right? So you see how Yudhishthira Maharaj, the Pandavas were so amazing, but how humble they were, right? So humble. When they went to the forest, they felt the same, they felt as happy as when they were in the palace. They didn't care, right? Because they see everything as a gift of Krishna. So these are the wonderful things. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted to see in our children. He was so keen on this one thing, and that is why he opened Gurukulas. Not just for, theoretical knowledge, so they can be pundits and recite beautiful shlokas and do all that, Not for that. That's a good asset, but really, because Brahmanas, they were meant to have very good pronunciation of shlokas and all that. But preachers, Parityacharya preachers, they are not required to know the exact pronunciation. Why? Because their mood, and this is our movement, their mood is what? Their mood is to give compassion, to give this knowledge to others. Okay? So these are the things Srila Prabhupada wanted to see in our children, not as big scholars or big Sanskritists. Yes, of course it would be nice, because then you can appreciate the scriptures better if you know Sanskrit, right? Then you can really relish the scriptures. But what he really wanted to see in them is these qualities. And 50 years ago in India, very influential people would send, the richest and the most influential people would send their children to Gurukula. They had everything, you name it. So much money, so much facility. They could easily have taught them at home. Just hired tutors and everything was there. But still at 5 years old, they were sending their children to Gurukula. Why? Because they found the necessity for their children to learn qualities, Vaishnava qualities like self-control, truthfulness, tolerance. They understood that value, and suddenly in Kali Yuga, everything changed, But this was their mood. And Krishna also went to Gurukula, right? Lord Ram and everything. So this was the mood, because even today, there's so many, America, for example, and other Western countries, there's so much money and also good education. But that's not a guarantee for good character, is it? No. In fact, it could be just the opposite. But Vedic education is different. Vedic education encourages qualities like that. So when children are raised as devotees, they naturally will develop wonderful qualities. So this was Prabhupada's move. This was Prabhupada's vision. So if you want to please Srila Prabhupada, then we have to focus on that. How we can give our children good character. Okay, that's number one. Otherwise, it's like if they don't have good character, Prabhupada said they're just like they're just like decorations on a dead body. Anybody with wonderful assets, but no good qualities. I mean, what is the point? What is the point, right? So he was very firm on that. So anyway, a little bit about that. And then, and how does these good qualities come? It's through his process. His process is so powerful that anybody, because it's pure bhakti yoga, it's pure. So when a person does this morning program and all these things that Srila Prabhupada wanted our children to do, then he naturally gets these qualities. So he gets his qualities from the process, then he gets his good qualities from looking up to his parents, he gets his good qualities from other devotees, and in this way, the whole process works in creating a wonderful child. Okay, so a little bit about my history. I lived in America, and I had my children. They were born there also. So when they turned to be 5, I started looking for a school for them, and then there was public schools. Of course, we opted for a private school, just thinking that it's going to be better for them. There's going to be more values, better academics. But just in really quick summary, I was very disappointed because academically, even though it was a private school, there was quite a bit lacking. My son would finish his work 20 minutes early, just sitting there bored. The schools, generally, it is said they are for the average. Okay, and so if you're above average, you're not challenged. If you're below average, you're just frustrated. This is what my experience was. Okay. And then, of course, the value system is, it's just the way it is, as you know. Nobody can argue with that. My younger one, Gopal, was in one class, and he was very young, first grade or something, because they went to school for a couple grades before I realized, and I pulled them out. And the teacher had a boyfriend coming in, and, and they were, like kissing each other lightly, stuff like that. And then there was behavior problems. Children would come from some children would come from dysfunctional families, and it was very hard. They would tease him for being a devotee, And I'm sure, I've heard in Melbourne there's a lot of bullying. That's intense, right? So it's not good. I mean, there wasn't any bullying there, really. It was just a little teasing, they would tease. But it does something to the confidence of the children, isn't it? It's not good, because they are being discriminated against just because they're different in color. And so what do you do in situations like that? In other words, imagine how strong you have to make the children to be able to take that and not lose self-esteem. Isn't it? The first thing that goes away is, I'm not as good. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. They start losing their confidence. And it takes a lot for parents to build that up and say, it's okay, It's not easy, because they lose their self-esteem, they lose their confidence. And I've heard stories like that, where a child just always, after being bullied, he's always thinking that, my God, I'm not good enough. I'm like this, and I'm like that, my body is like this, or I'm not smart enough, right? And it's an uphill battle, really. So anyway, so these are some of the things you can go through, right? And then, of course, so then I opted to do homeschooling, and in America it's quite easy. You just buy a curriculum, and you just a ready-made curriculum, and every day you do certain lesson plans. There's lesson plan, daily lesson plans. You just go through it with your child, like that. So I thought, well, let me do it in summer, because then it's safe. If they don't do well, I'll put them back to school, because I was also very nervous about that, So, but you won't believe it, in 3 months we finished the whole year's curriculum. They were young, but still they were studying like 2 hours a day. It's not difficult to homeschool at all. So, and of course this, so after then I realized, oh, this is not difficult at all. I can homeschool them. But then very soon, so I decided to pull them out, and very soon I got dissatisfied with that, and I decided to do Śrīmad Bhāgavatam with them, to build a curriculum around Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, because I had a great desire to study it myself. I thought, wow, this is like, we both, all of us can benefit from that. And in this way, our schedule was, we did a morning program, and then after that we studied Śrīmad Bhāgavatam for about 2 hours a day. And this was really fun. I'll tell you very quickly about what exactly we did. It was in the form of discussion. I tell you, if you ask my children what was homeschooling like or what they studied in their life, they can't remember anything. They think it was one big play. But I knew that education was going on. I as a parent knew that they were learning a lot. But to them it was like one big play. Because if you're studying, doing all your language through Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and then after Śrīmad Bhāgavatam we'd go out and do different preaching activities. I would plan ahead of time. We would have get permission from the city for book tables, prasadam tables, whatever was going on, anything, Earth Day, this day, that day, and then you just have to plan a little bit ahead, and then we'd go, and children would be standing behind the table distributing books. And guess what happens when you distribute books? You have to explain the philosophy, right? You have to explain the philosophy. What's the philosophy? And what does it do to a child? It develops faith. I am a devotee. I'm proud to be a devotee. You see? So that's why sharing Krishna with others not only makes them compassionate to everyone there. They are not thinking, oh, I'm such a great, these people are dirty, these people are bad, No, it does just the opposite. They're eating meat. No, you develop compassion. When you share Krishna with others, you develop compassion towards others. Because you see them, you see them as like us, right? Except they just don't have the knowledge, right? So in this way, it becomes very effective. So we would do all this, and then we'd come home, and then they'd have lunch or whatever, and then we'd do math, science and math. I mean, not science, but math. So we did all our language arts from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and math separately. That was extra subject, right? So math becomes the basis for all sciences, and English language becomes the basis of all humanities. So if your child, whichever way, right now you don't know which way he's going to go, right? So whichever way, you've covered it. You've covered it. If you give them strong math skills, they can do any science, physics, chemistry, and I had a direct experience of that. And if you give a strong English background, they can do any humanity subject. Anthropology, sociology, psychology, anything they can do. Because strong language skills means good comprehension, right? And Prabhupada was, his books are master's level and PhD level. So that kind of worked out. And so this was our daily routine, okay? So every day was exciting for them because there's something somewhere they have to go, something they have to do, right? We were even doing prison programs once a month. So you can imagine, there's so much education going on. I mean, which child in any public school gets an opportunity to do these things? I'm trying to promote homeschooling here, I guess, but I'm not, really. I'm just trying to give you the confidence that what Srila Prabhupada gave us has everything in it. When Prabhupada says that one can be, let me show you this. When he says this, quote, if we train children by developing and encouraging their propensity to love Krishna, then they shall be successful in educating them to the topmost standard. Then they shall happily agree to whatever you ask them. He's saying that is topmost education. And Srila Prabhupada not only just said it, he gave us a process where you can give them topmost education. He gave us everything, the shastra, the process. By preaching outside, he gives them that experience, right? Just by being good preachers. That's why this first quote was talking about that when we raise a whole generation of good Vaishnava preachers, because what happens is when you share Krishna with others, you develop all those wonderful expertise in everything. You know how to speak, you know how to communicate. I know one person who did book distribution for many years, and then he decided to go and take Grahastha life. He went for a job, and he was like top salesman there. Really good, Because no devotee, Krishna will never, a devotee will never be at a loss. Krishna will always protect him, and he will carry what they lack. Right? So Prabhupada gave us all that. We don't have to look outside. If you're wanting your children to learn something, like public speaking or whatever, it's all here, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So here is purity is the force, and this is the first part, preparing the home. Okay, and so this is what things we should not do. That's avoiding screen time, limiting internet. That's become one of the biggest challenges for us now, is to how to get our children to not be addicted to screen time. Right? And that's really hard, because now in schools they have all their homework they need to do from the internet, right? Like I was saying yesterday, little children, 5-year-old children also possess an iPad, because even their schoolwork is on an iPad, right? So there's no way to get out of it if your child is going to school. But we just must educate ourselves on the good and the bad of this, okay? We must educate ourselves, because education means, you can do something about it, right? It's very, very important to educate what are the stuff that goes on when you are exposed to screen time. Okay, so one problem, the first problem is content. Do you agree that screen, television and internet, it destroys that regulative principles? Everybody agrees with that? No meat eating, everything? No questions about that, right? So at one time we're trying to be nice devotees and follow the 4 regulative principles, and you sit in front of the television and you see something, it just goes down the drain, right? Prabhupada said it's like lighting a fire and pouring water on it at the same time. So you're trying to advance, but then you stop it by doing exposing yourself. And even if it's a good show, like people tell me that, he just watches or she just watches only this show, no more. But guess what? It's full with commercials, right? And these commercials are specially geared for children, because they know children are watching it. It's specially geared for children, and it's meant to, and most of the time it's doing things that are very, it's not good. It's encouraging this relationship between man and woman and all that. When you travel on a plane for long distances like I do, and the type of things people watch, it's becoming harder and harder to have children on the plane anymore, because every seat has this screen in front of them, and you can see, if you just look like this also, you can see what they're watching. And people don't even have any understanding of what is doing to others who don't want to watch these shows, right? It's terrible, One time my son was going on a very long trip, and it was very, very long, and so he thought, well, let me see what's happening. And so he turned the screen on. They didn't grow up with television at all, and so he turned it on, and the show that was going on was all about, for 40 minutes, it was all about how stupid your parents are. And he tells during the seminars when he's with me, how stupid your parents are. For 40 minutes. And he was saying that, oh my God, what is it going to do to the brain of the child? These are the most revered members of our society, the parents, right? And you're making such fun of them. So and you keep watching things like that, it's going to do something to you. Then you go to school and you see other children react to their parents when they pick up them from school. At least in America, you see it all the time. When children are being picked up, the way they talk to their father or mother. You hear statements like, oh, shut up, Dad. It's very normal. It's very normal. Even in college, sometimes when a parent picks up a college kid, it's the same, it's even worse. The older you go, the more disrespectful you become, right? So these things are there, and the media is very big responsible for that. So you think it's very, it's okay, but no, it's doing a lot of harm. Because now the children have so many authorities. You're not the only authority anymore. It used to be like that. A child would wear something nice, he would come to his mother and say, okay mom, what do you think how I look? So in other words, his assurance, his identity was assured by his parents. Now that is not happening. They least care what their parents think of what they wear, right? What is their need now? Social media. What other friends are thinking. Right? So in this way, the parents are losing their ability to change the kids, to influence the kids, right? Because there's so many authorities. Especially social media is taking over. And social media is not about social things. It's not about relationships. It's the most unsocial thing. Why? Because it's all about the fake world. It's not the real world. It's Maya at its peak. I mean, somebody puts out a nice, beautiful picture of herself enjoying on a beach. Well, the child looks at it and thinks, I'm so unfortunate. I don't get to enjoy like that. And dissatisfaction arises in her heart. And dissatisfaction, especially in terms of my parents. They haven't given me this. It creates so many desires in them, right? So in this way, and so in order to, so it's not about real relationships, it's about fake relationships. So there's many problems, things like objectionable shows. You think they are protected, but they're not protected. If you spend enough time on the internet, you will get into sites like that, whether you like it or you don't like it. So now in America, a lot of parents, devotee parents, have a lot of control over what they watch. There's softwares that you can get, which limits them to the time that they can be exposed. It limits them to what they can watch, and parents are doing it openly. They're doing it, So because it's just so dangerous, and children are very innocent. It's not like they're looking for those things. They just happen to come on that. If you're long enough on the internet, you will. It's like we say, they're just 2 clicks away. Sexual association, all these things. So children are learning all these things much earlier, too much earlier, right? And so it's creating in them all these. That's why you see little girls like heavily made up, right? Not being a kid anymore. And they are learning all this from social media. It's terrible, They're losing their childhood, their sweet childhood. Jumping around, playing with cows. All that is gone. Those things have gone, right? So anyway, so this is very unfortunate. And so, and I travel a lot. So I have done seminars in India, and you would think the last place where they will have such a huge problem of social media and screen time and all that, smartphones, is very big problem there, huge problem. And I've had parents come and cry that the children, they threaten them, that if you take this phone away from me, I'll commit suicide. Another parent said that my son is addicted to pornography. In America, it's a huge problem, but it's coming everywhere, right? So we have to be very alert, we have to be very smart. Don't hesitate to take it away at night. Don't give them to hang on to the phone all night. That's the worst time they can have a phone. There's one parent in Dallas, he just takes away the phone. They all sleep together in one huge room. He says whatever it takes. They're happy. And the boy is excellent. He's going to school and he's chanting 16 rounds. So we can be smart, you know. And of course, the boy has a lot of extracurricular activities to engage his mind. So his mind is not running always on the phone. Because the addiction for the phone is so bad, it's like a drug addict. You know, just like a drug addict cannot give it up because of this rush of dopamine. Same thing with internet addiction. It's exactly the same. What about the damage it does to the brain? The neurons in the brain, they get damaged. You know, it says it should all spread nicely, so it goes to one side. It's permanently damaged. You can't reverse it. Especially if you give your children too early. At any time, it damages the brain, it causes depression, a tendency for suicide, self-harming. There's so much research on that. Read it up, educate yourself, and don't hesitate to take it away. I know it's a huge practical problem, but if you give them the higher taste and enough engagement in Krishna consciousness, Krishna will help you. Definitely will help you. Okay? So I don't want to take too much time in this, but it doesn't mean that we still need the internet, they still need to go on the internet, right? And they'll try to convince you that how important the phone they must have. You give them a little, what do you call that phone? So they'll say, why, what do I do, how can I, but I need to call you, and I need to do this, and they'll have all kinds of excuses why they must get a regular phone, right? But you have to be smart, okay? And if there's a committed, loving relationship at home, that's why that part is so important, okay? Obedience comes from a loving relationship at home. It's easier to follow when a child sees that the parents are feeling the same way, they're together, they're cooperating, and they both have intense love for them, okay? Then it's easier for them to follow, okay? So that's important, okay? We have to give them a idea that, the parents love them, but at the same time, this is not something they're going to accept, right? So in other words, some kind of restriction based on love, okay? You can't force anybody to do anything, okay? But there's some restriction can be done, Even karmis, they have rules in their house. Can't come home after 8. Well, they have rules too, So why do we as parents hesitate in having those rules? So what do? You use it like a tool when you need it. Train your children when you need it, like for homework. You use it and then you keep it away. Just take it away. It's a tool. It's meant to be used as a tool to do your homework. For us, it's meant to be to do our emails, right? This is what we need it for. So you have to set that example yourself. You're not always on it. Then they think, well, you're doing it, so why shouldn't I do it, right? So good example. Spending time, quality time with the children. Even if you had to do something non-devotional, but at least you're physically together and doing something, right? Like playing a board game or something like that. If you can do instead of chanting or reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, it's so much better. But at least they're not on their phones, right? Okay. So morning program, these are some of the things you should do. Morning program, very important because it gives certain discipline. First of all, it cleans the heart, it purifies the heart. So important. Because it's like I was saying yesterday, it's a shield, it's an armor. Okay, when you do a good morning program, when you go out, even for men and women who work, when you do a nice morning program, you see how it protects you from the world around you. Immediately your consciousness is at a different level, and it helps them, especially our children. They're facing so much out there, so much peer pressure. One girl in Zurich, she came and told me after she heard the seminar, she said, it makes so much sense. But the difficulty is if you go to school, then it's not fair, because you hear something, a different set of values at home, but at school you hear something different. So it's a huge conflict that they have to face. So they're dealing with a lot of things. They're dealing with a lot of problems when they go to school. So we have to be mindful of that. And so give them the things that will help them, that will take away that conflict. The more conviction you give them that they are devotees, the more they will be able to handle those conflicts at school, the problems at school. Okay? The more strong you make them internally with by all these programs, right? So you can be flexible, you can be practical, you can do a short one before they go to school, but do something. This is the first thing they should do, right? You can make it enjoyable. And japa also is also one of the biggest struggles, right? But we can, again, we can encourage them by doing it with them. Never let children do japa on their own. Okay? You have 16 rounds to chant, they have 2, you do it with them. So they can be very positive about it. They can, and then find ways where they can do it with their friends, their peers at the temple. Find occasions where they can join up and do some. On Ekadashi, we used to do in Boise. Ekadashi, we always got together with the parents, with the children, and all chanted together. So as a community, you can help them develop nice habits and some attraction. Prabhupada said, don't use japa as a punishment, because that can give them a negative image of japa. In other words, you don't say that you chant, you've been a bad girl today or boy today, so you have to chant 2 rounds. So what is the impression you get? Terrible. Japa is really bad. I don't like japa. And children, if they're raised like that, then for years and years they don't want to touch japa. They don't want to chant. So we have to be very careful how we present japa to them. But at the same time, we want to encourage them, right? To chant. Right. Eating prasadam, very important, because food affects the consciousness. When you eat non-prasadam, it affects your consciousness. It's not just about, okay, I didn't offer. It's about how your internal consciousness, how it's going to react to that. You take one step forward by doing something nice morning program, and then you eat non-devotee food, you take one step back. Okay? So it's very important that prasadam should be introduced to our children. And Prabhupada was very, he said children can eat as much as they want to, and they can play as much as they want to. But he wanted only one thing from the children, is that they should get up in the morning and do a morning program. You see how keen Prabhupada was for the morning program? So somehow or the other you have to incorporate it. Okay? Yeah. So how do you deal with the practical aspect of giving them prasadam when they go to school and there's all kinds of food, right? First of all, don't let them eat cafeteria food. I'm sure all of you are not doing it, but there are some parents who think it's okay. Vegetarian cafeteria food in school. It's not vegetarian at all. Because the spoons that they are using is already dipped in dishes that have meat in it. And they're using the same spoon. They use beef stock, at least over there, in vegetarian food. It's not vegetarian. So we have to be very careful. We have to pack them lunches. Give them your own prasadam. Okay? If they want only sandwiches or spaghetti or something, give them that. It's okay. At least it's prasadam. Okay? And how do you manage it when they have parties? They have pizza parties, this party, that party. Well, again, Shastra will come. You have to first feed the intelligence. You have to give them gentle reminders why we eat only prasadam. Children really need a lot of reminders, again and again. Don't think I've already told them. Yeah, they have to be reminded again and again. Okay, so then what do? We take our own pizza. Or if it's not a pizza party, it's just some kind of birthday party, or it's an office party for your husband and you need to go there because it's needed, you have to go there. then you take a big pot of pakoras and you bake, and then for everybody, and then you fill up on that. Or if you want a second dish, then you can make a big pot of nice rice, vegetable rice. And everybody gets to eat prasadam, right? And then you also eat that prasadam, and children, they just love pakoras. They just fill up. And they understand that this, I'm a devotee and I eat, this is what I eat. My younger son would say that how every time it happened, then he would think he's got a secret pact with Krishna, where he's promised Krishna, I won't eat something that you don't eat. Children have this kind of relationship with Krishna. It's very friendly, you know. He was little, very little. He says, oh, I used to feel like I had this, understanding with Krishna. Children are actually very strong. It's the parents who get weak. Isn't it true? Yeah, okay, my child is missing out. Let him have that cake with eggs in school. It's okay. And we get really weak. But if you are strong and you give them, if you study Shastra with them and you are always ready to make some alternative for them, children are very strong. They need the support of the parents. That's why our own example is very important. If they see their parents, always eating prasadam and, and not hesitating to cook for them, so they can have prasadam, then they feel, they feel very strong, right? My husband used to have a traveling job, and he would sometimes be sent out by the office on faraway places, sometimes East Asia, Japan and all that. And I would pack, like for a week and stuff, and then sometimes he would run out, like food, like it would run out. And he would only be living on nuts and dates and stuff like that. Yeah, and so the children saw that, right? They heard that, they saw that. So you can imagine what kind of effect it will make on the child. So we need to give them good examples. If we ourselves are so weak, then the children are going to be weak. Right? And so as my children grew up and they went themselves to college, to London, then to university, then they followed that. Because they had good examples, good Shastra to feed the mind, why it's like that. There's a reason behind everything. And so they follow that. So in other words, they had to have parties, luncheons outside sometimes, right? With people, like anybody going to work has that situation, right? And then what you do is you just order a fruit plate, not a vegetarian plate. It's not vegetarian, right? A fruit plate or a salad, okay? And they would take that, and everybody understood. And when people ask them, why are you eating like this? Why don't you order a vegetarian food? Then they explain, we don't eat food from a kitchen that cooks meat. We don't eat in a kitchen that cooks meat, from a kitchen that cooks meat. Because if you say, I'm a vegetarian, they'll put all kinds of food, vegetarian food in front of you and say, I promise you this is vegetarian. But it's not vegetarian, right? But if you use this line, then they can, they understand. And they actually, I've had that experience, they actually respect you for that. As long as you're consistent, you don't change your line. It's not like they see you eating one time and the second time that you're not eating, right? That won't work. Then they'll just laugh at you. They just laugh at you. So my husband had a corporate job and he went through life just doing like that. And he was so many times he had to eat lunches with his colleagues and things like that. And children, because they saw that example, they followed. And to this day, they're working people, they have jobs and everything, but yeah, it's not a problem. So Prabhupada said, if you just follow this one rule, only eat prasadam, I will eat only prasadam, he said, you'll go back to Godhead. If you did nothing else, he said. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. So we shouldn't lose that culture. It's not being fanatic. It's just being practical, you know. We want to advance. We don't want to be fanatical either, right? If you're going out and there's nothing to eat, you know, then maybe you need something, you know, not outside food, but maybe a snack or something, right? Sometimes you're going on vacation. We'd go on vacation and carry everything, you know, like a little electric pot, you plug it in and make khichdi, you know, out of it. And children knew that this is going to be an austerity for 1 week. It's not going to be gourmet food, but yet, you know, they were very happy. Because they understood this is part of life and there's so much other stuff that we can do, you know. Maybe you can eat, you know, if you find out, you can eat an ice cream and stuff outside, as long as you know what's in it, you know. So these things actually become a lot of fun. You go on a vacation, you go on a hiking trip or whatever. You do this, you are all together, right? So what is the image that the child gets? That we are in it together. Our family is in it together, right? Because you're supporting it, you're doing it yourself. And that will go a long way in giving them spiritual advancement. It's a very powerful thing. Good association is very important for them. And again, we must give them, you know, devotee association among children also. They should have devotee friends. Besides having casual friendship with children in school, I mean, they are studying in the same class, so they are going to end up being their friends, right? So these are, you know, so in other words, they have friends in school, but they're not they are not intimate friends. This is how you have to train your children. Your intimate friends are going to be devotee friends. But these are only casual friends. Intimacy means you don't share food with them, and you also don't have sleepovers. You know, that's where intimacy comes, when you share food, right? And you stay in somebody's house. That becomes no-no. I mean, you'll allow your children to stay with karmis, what's going to happen? It doesn't work, right? Maybe you can call them into your house so that you can keep a check on them, right? So you can call them to your house, but then they say, come to my house, right? So if that doesn't work, then you make sure that they have good devotee friends that who can play together, they can eat, they should always feel, I have friends, but my favorite friends are the devotees. And I know there's problems, sometimes devotee kids are into bad habits and all those problems are there, right? So again, I was telling you, right, that when you study Shastra, you get an understanding that there's all types of devotees. But they are to be respected. Even a karmi is to be respected, right? Especially devotees, they are to be respected. Even if they don't follow the standards that I follow, they still should be respected. But respect doesn't mean that we will follow them. So they learn, when they come to a temple, there's all types of different levels of devotees. There are children who are doing all kinds of bad nonsense. There are children who are very nice devotees. Okay? So it doesn't mean they're going to shun the other devotees who are not so pakat. No, they can play with them. But they know that because of studying Shastra, they understand, you know, why I'm a devotee and what it takes to be a devotee and all those things, right? So many examples after example in Shastra, right? So they understand that this is, you know, I'm not going to follow them. They're still my friends, but I'm not going to follow them, casual friends. And they make good friendship with those that are naturally closer to them, okay? So things can be handled only if you do your job with the children. If you neglect your job as a parent, what you're supposed to do, then actually nothing works. You see, parents have a very big role in the upbringing of their children. Much more. Suppose there's a school, Hare Krishna school is big school in Auckland. It's been around for years. Everybody moves there from all over New Zealand just to send their children to school there. It's a very good school. It's a devotee school. But still, it doesn't work till parents take the first lead, do their job. Ultimately, parents are responsible for their children. You cannot give that responsibility to teachers even in a devotee school. The results won't be good, as good. Okay. What to speak of a place like this where there's no devotee school? How much of a responsibility, how much of a lead you have to take with your children to keep them in the right track, right? Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay, so adult association, Prabhupada really stressed good adult association for our children. He said children should do it like the elders do. No difference. In the program for children, no difference in the program for adults. Same thing, morning program, reading Shastra, they go off to work, children study at home or school, right? Same program. But what it does to have adult association from people who are devotees is they learn some good things from them because they're devotees, right? So, and by keeping our children close to adults, they learn responsibility. If you don't give them your own association and the association of other senior devotees, then they don't learn good habits. They don't learn important lessons in life. So it's very important to do that and give them that association of yourself, the sannyasis, the gurus. My children would travel with them when they visited, when the sannyasis came. Then they would travel with them. Sometimes for 1 month during the summer holidays. My younger son took a year off to travel with his spiritual master. And everybody is like shocked. They said, how can you do that? 1 year of his life. 1 year of his life? Do you think that's a big time? But by giving him that facility to be with such a saintly person, you have actually, taken care of his spiritual life forever. Especially coming at a time when they have the most trouble, like a teenage time. When children enter that teenage period, it's very troublesome for them. And it's a time where you can do nothing, because these are the bodily changes, the hormonal changes that goes on. The only thing that helps is Krishna consciousness. Even a committed relationship works only so much. Even a strong relationship with their parents can work so much, because even that doesn't work. The emotions are too strong. The rebellion that comes naturally in their minds at that age is too strong to weather, anything, positive. So what you do is you give them advanced association. So you have to give them advanced association. Because because it's a way of purifying the heart. When there's always Krishna connected to to the activities, Krishna consciousness has a way of purifying the heart that nothing else will work. Okay, and that's why you see that how, I'll tell you the story I did tell yesterday, but it's powerful, this story of my son who went to Oxford University to study, and they have different colleges over there, and there's so he was admitted in one college called Queen's College, and so it was the first day of orientation. All the new students were supposed to get together around a table, and the provost was there, and they were supposed to be oriented, introduced to each other. It was meant to be a lunch and then a drink. So everybody had the lunch. He ordered a salad. He had that, and then they passed around a glass of wine. And the provost gets up and he addresses the students and he says, now Oxford University is a drinking college. Okay, it's just everybody drinks over there, alcohol. Okay. And and now it's going to be, he said, drinking is part of our culture. He said this like this, drinking is part of our culture, now it's going to be part of your culture. I mean, how little we know about what's going on in the world, isn't it? We don't know these things, right? We just send them blindly to some place and you expect everybody will be in the mode of goodness. No, they are completely in the mode of ignorance. So, and then he passes, after saying that, then he passes this wine. It's passed around and everybody takes a sip, right? I mean, it's a drinking college. It's just the way it is, right? It's a party institute and a drinking institute. And the provost, who's an educator, he gets up and announces that, right? And, Gopal, my son, he didn't know, he didn't expect all that, right? So everybody is starting to drink wine and they notice that he's not drinking. And they got on his case and really got on his case. They started pushing him, teasing him, pushing him. Come on, Gopal, take a sip. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. What's a sip? Try it. And the pressure was so high because it wasn't one person saying it, everybody pounced on him. And it's a heavy thing for a young child. Okay. It's a child who's there. It's not a young child is there. It's not us. Okay? It's them. And it's very difficult for them. And he was feeling so much pressure that he's thinking, maybe I should take a sip. But then immediately after that, he thought about his spiritual master. He says, what will my spiritual master think? And right at that time, Krishna helps. And somebody who was half drunk, he said, just leave him alone, man. Leave him alone. And the pressure all died down. And he was able to get out of it. So what I'm saying is that children go through a lot of pressure in school, in colleges. And we have to give them the proper protection from that. So my point was that how a saintly person, what powerful effect he has, a sadhu. And that's why you see in third canto, Kapil Muni talks to his mother at length about how she must be attached to a sadhu. When we become attached to a sadhu, a spiritual master, whatever, our devotional life matures. Otherwise it stays right there. You can do everything and all that. But until you serve a devotee, until you serve a pure devotee, we cannot advance. And they have such a powerful effect. Imagine, we also have raised him nicely and everything, but what entered his mind was his guru. That's why I say when you send your children to college, make sure they're chanting 16 rounds, make sure they're initiated. That's what I did before they go to college. Because it's a security, it's an added safety. Okay, and then also we must give them a place where there is association of devotees. Don't think I've raised him so wonderfully, he's such a perfect devotee, he's almost like a pure devotee, he's not going to fall down. I've given everything, now he should do his own thing. Yes, it's true. They have to learn to fend for themselves, they have to learn how to do everything themselves. But still they need protection. Because Maya is very strong. So when you have a choice where to send them to a place where there's devotee association. It may not be the top Ivy League college, but it doesn't matter. If you lose your child to Maya, what good is your Ivy League? And it happens, it's so quick it happens. I like to tell that example about family in Boise where we were devotees, and I encouraged this parent to send his kid to university early, because we got into the tradition. The university was expecting these Hare Krishna kids to be really smart, and so they were admitting them because we started the process. So other families with children, they were also entering college very early. Okay, they entered at 12 and 13. They didn't finish at 12. I think you all may have gotten the impression they finished at 17, right? So I told him that you're going to send him to outside public high school. Better you do it what I did, and you get him in college, straight to college. And that child went there and got a straight A, very sharp. And he got a straight A in the first class that he took, right? And then he was going to take a second class in the next semester, and the parents pulled them out and put him back in high school. and he was able to skip high school and go straight to college. But she was so insecure, she thought, oh, if he doesn't go to high school, then he won't get this, and what happens to the future college? He won't get access to some top university later on if he doesn't have the transcript and all that. Well, he's already in college, right? And so anyway, they got a little insecure about the whole thing, about the academic, about his future. And then what happened is right after that, he went to public high school. They pulled him out, and just a few months after that, he came back with a girl, and everything went downhill after that. Parents were so devastated. And that girl was not even a devotee. You see? So what I'm saying is that, Maya is that's the point I'm making, is Maya, don't take things for granted. You still have to trust your child. It's not like you don't trust them, right? But still, like my spiritual master said, you give them the protection, the association, always. And make decisions accordingly, okay? Deity worship, also very important, because they learn to see Krishna as a person. Otherwise, it's very difficult later on in life if they don't grow up worshipping deities. You want to hear, I don't know what time it is. I'm always in anxiety about it. What time is it? Okay, we'll go through it. Yeah, there's still some time. But I still also have to give time for questions. Okay? So if you have any questions, just write them down so that you don't forget. So how important is deity worship was shown by a quote by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Okay, listen very carefully. Religions that have no provision for deity worship face the danger that those children born into the religion and those just beginning spiritual life, both of whom may have little or no understanding or deep faith in Godhead, may become overly materialistic. In other words, children who are not raised with deities at home, they become overly materialistic and even develop aversion towards the Supreme Lord as a result of the absence of a deity form on which to fix their minds. Therefore, deity worship is the foundation of religion for general humanity. He's specifically talking about children. Especially it's very important for children. And also for adults. Very important. So, therefore, we should think of ways where we can get them involved to worship deities. If they're very small, Krishna dolls is okay. But when they get older, you can get them Gaur Nitai. My children had 4-inch Gaur Nitai deities. And I tell you, they were busy for at least 2 hours every day. Every day. Bathing them, ornamenting them, putting on a dress, arti, offering. And they would test my patience a lot, believe me. Dropping water. But I was always there, okay? And so they learned how to, and they would be, I noticed how absorbed they would be in that. Yeah. And you can imagine what it does. I mean, you're associating with Krishna. It's not different, the deities and Krishna. So they're associating with Krishna directly for 2 hours a day. Now, when children are small, they love to play. It's a wonderful way of letting them play with Krishna. But we set the boundaries. We set the boundaries. Every time we keep reminding them, did you wash your hands? Or did you, is your, so many boundaries, right? No, don't do like this to deities or whatever, So you keep setting those boundaries. Of course, when children get older, other things have to be also taken care of. So the deity time reduces, which is okay, right? But especially if they're small, let them play in this way. Prabhupada he said in one quote that, children, parents, they allow their children to waste time. So much time. That you can channel into Krishna consciousness. Because Prabhupada said they should play just like Krishna played. Just like cowherd boys played. In other words, they should play Krishna conscious games. Right? Why? Because then they're playing with Krishna. So that association with Krishna is very valuable for the spiritual advancement. we shouldn't hesitate to do these things. Okay? So, yeah. There's so much to be said in this, but I think I should move on. So this is the second part here. Should I stop for questions? Some questions? A couple maybe? Yes. Yeah, there's one there, then you go.
Hare Krishna Mataji. First of all, thank you very much for taking some time out for us.
Thank you.
Mataji, first of all, sorry in advance if my question is a bit harsh. We hear that in Krishna says in Bhaktivedanta, if you do enough devotional service or bhakti, your next birth will be in a devotee family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we still see that devotee kids and devotee parents are the actually parents who are taking so much effort into their kids so that they can be good devotees or good at least good human beings. So, but still we see that parents are doing whatever you mentioned these points, limited screen time and deity worship, all these points which are good association. So still we see some devotee kids, they get deviated. But on the other hand, the kids which are raising up in a normal families, like I've been in Melbourne from last 22 years. I've seen most of the congregation, they have done, all the activities, bad activities that can be done in a human life. But still they are being so nice devotees here. But they have gone through all that phase of life. But on the other hand, a devotee kid which has done all these points, which has done absolutely whatever we can do, and still they get deviated and they go into all this, they don't follow this.
Prabhu, I'm a bit confused. Are you making a difference between devotee kids or non-devotee kids from nice Indian families versus a devotee kid who's been raised as a devotee in a devotee family? Is that your comparison?
No, my question was just based on the points that we mentioned here. That if we are raising up our children, we limit our screen time, good association, deity worship, whatever the points but our kids are doing that, but still they get deviated. But on the other side, the kids which are not doing any of these, but still they become good devotees.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we understand that,
Well, it's a very general statement. It's really difficult to see that, to understand that children who are raised with Krishna consciousness, they cannot appreciate it later on, right? You're saying pretty much that's what you're saying, that later on they cannot appreciate because maybe they've missed out on these things, This is really, I think what you're getting at is they because they've been raised so much as a devotee, they may feel that they've actually missed out, on some of those other things that other kids do. And so once they get a chance, they want to quickly go and try those things out and things like that. See, the thing is that there is no such thing as a neutral upbringing, okay? You either give them materialism or you give them spiritualism, okay? So one or the other. In other words, there's no such thing as neutral. In other words, if you stack up the odds in favor of materialism, yes, there's a chance that the child may opt for spiritual life later on in life, even though you raised him without any of this. There is a chance, but that chance is very minor, okay? But suppose you raise a child as a devotee, you're stacking the odds in favor of him being a devotee, and suppose he gets distracted. At a certain point he thinks, oh, let me try this kind of thing, But the chances of him coming back is much bigger. Why? Because you've given him a taste of Krishna consciousness. See, Krishna has these hooks in us, when we turn towards Krishna, he places these hooks in us, okay? And what happens is, for some time, the child may veer away from Krishna consciousness, but then, Krishna, you don't know when Krishna will pull that hook and bring him back. Because it's already there, the foundation is already there. And it's quite likely that they may get distracted. That's a fact. But the chances for them to come back is much, much bigger. Because, anything in Krishna consciousness, when you do anything, any type of devotional service, Krishna has already, planted a hook in you. You're already, trapped in a way. So it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time, and the child can come back again. That's why the foundation has always got to be strong, even if the child leaves and goes away. There was one child in Prague, when I went to Prague, he left home. He became rebellious and said, forget it, all this Krishna conscious business, I'm going. And he left, and then after some time, he came back, just remembering how his mother cooked. He's just remembering all that food and the prasadam. You see? So nothing in Krishna consciousness is wasted. It's already been planted in the child's heart. But without Krishna consciousness, it's very risky. It's very risky. Because, because there's nothing for him to really come back to. It's very difficult. And if you raise a devotee child and you have all kinds of abuse going on at home, it's a different story. That child is going to be just like disgusted. Who wants to be in a home like that? He's going to leave, right, at some point. But in a normal house where there's so much love and care, it's very dangerous to do it that way, to raise a child. Like I was saying yesterday, giving a child materialism will have no good result, because it makes the heart very hard-hearted. Very hard-hearted, The more you attach to sense gratification, the more a person becomes hard-hearted. Why? Because he's thinking he's the center of enjoyment. Everything revolves around him. If we have attachment for each other based on sense gratification, we just become very mean and selfish. Okay? Just like Dhritarashtra. He was attached to his son, but it was not based on Krishna consciousness. Look at the result he had. He went through so much misery. Because he didn't train his son to even recognize Krishna. When Krishna comes in his form and in his Virat room, he's thinking, oh, he's a big magician, a little bit better than me, he's thinking. Duryodhana is thinking like that. He's thinking, oh, Krishna is just a little bit better than me. So, Hiranyaksha was thinking, when he saw Radha, he thought, oh, this is a nice little pig, big pig, So if we don't give them Krishna consciousness, they just become materialistic, atheistic. They think everything is coming from matter. There's no God as a creator. All the Indian young people who come to America, they've been trained in schools which is just atheistic. And they come totally without any sense of God consciousness. And now our devotees, like in Chowpatty and all, they're trying to pull these young people back, right? Through their preaching, their base camps, they call it. And it's a lot of hard work to change them around. So it can happen, but most of the time you lose it. So whatever you give them is going to be only of benefit. And they will come back to it. Eventually they'll come back to it. All our children who've been given Krishna consciousness in their early life, they're not lost. They will come back. But we should keep trying to get them back. Okay? Okay, Prabhu? So I guess, yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Swami, you just touched base on bullying in schools.
Yeah.
So the other comment is, Mataji, today or tomorrow they have to fly on their own wings, and maybe that bullying, that will, make their personality strong and how to face the hard world outside. So if that's the way of learning, and
Prabhu, this is not a way of learning. It's to be bullied. Why a child who doesn't go through, like, for example, a homeschool child, he doesn't go through heavy competition, right? The competition, the heavy competition. Well, he has more motivation to learn. That's why. When you put children in very high, intense competitive spirit, they lose their motivation to study. Same thing with bullying. It's not normal to be bullied like that. You lose your self-esteem. We have to respect everybody, Bullying is not acceptable at all. Why should they be bullied? Why should they be made to feel as though they are just like some bag of brown skin with no self-respect? Yeah.
Sorry, Mata, it's very easy to say there is no bullying, but it is happening, and we cannot completely ignore the bag of brown skin. It does happen.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm not saying that it's not happening.
Please advise me on that. How to develop self-esteem so that they can stand on their feet and they cannot be bullied. Because bullying.
Such a nice question.
Is not an option.
Yeah, very good question. Yeah. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati has written about that. That a child who takes shelter of Krishna, is never without protection. The more Krishna conscious you make, again the benefits of making a child Krishna conscious. The more you make a child Krishna conscious, the more the protection is.
This is what I was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So so in other words, he's never left unprotected, and Krishna personally says, I will personally, and you know how he did with Prahlad as Lord Nrsimha. That incarnation was just for one child. Krishna incarnated as Nrsimha just to protect his one devotee child. And it doesn't mean he'll do it only with Prahlad. He'll do it with every devotee child who takes shelter of Krishna. So what you have to, when the child is being bullied, what your role is to make him, to give him that faith. Is to give that faith. You see?
Follow-on question on Mataji.
Yeah.
Can I? Sorry, Krishna, sorry.
Yeah.
Homeschooling is not an option for most of us.
Yeah.
And somehow by homeschooling, kids are isolated from outside.
Okay, so we won't talk about homeschooling right now because we don't have time, because this is not what I'm trying to do here. Okay? No. It's okay. So what I'm not trying to do, to change everybody into homeschooling, to start homeschooling. What I'm giving you the faith that if they're going to school, okay, first of all, bullying is not to be condoned. Okay. Secondly, what to do if they are being bullied is to give them strong Krishna consciousness. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Ultimately, it boils down to Krishna consciousness. A child growing up in Krishna consciousness is way ahead than any other child. Okay? Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,